What's in the waiting room?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're really glad to see all the faces here and hope you are having a good week. We've got a couple other folks joining in the waiting room, so we'll let them join here. We'll get started in about 30 seconds or so. So thank you for joining us. Michael's in the mountains there. It's beautiful. All right. Becca, when you're able, if you don't mind sharing the first slide for Joanne here, and we will kick things off. So I know Joanne doesn't need much of an introduction, but for those of you who do not know, she is our founder and fearless leader. And so we are honored to have her kick off this call. And looks like she's finishing up a phone call. So I'm stalling here. And we'll get her started in just a moment here. So Joanne? Take it away.
Okay. All right. If you go to the next slide, we are ready to rock and roll. Okay. So welcome, everybody. I'm very glad you're all here. And so what I want to do is introduce everybody that's working on our team, our volunteers, and then give a brief overview of 3 main projects that Faith Communities Go Green has been working on this year. And then we'll introduce our advocacy facilities, and I apologize for my noisy clock. Working groups. So yeah, and Becca, please, I'll give you, if you're the one in charge of forwarding things, I'll let you know next slide. But so if you can go back, please. I want to point out that the purpose of this meeting really is to encourage member discussion. We will give you a brief introduction to what we're doing, but we're really wanting to get now input from you. So thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to your participation. Next slide. So Kyle, thank you very much for your nice introduction. So our steering team, Ryan is our executive director of Green Umbrella, and she got us off to a great start on getting us on the right foot, because she set us up as an impact team. And then the next thing we did was we collaborated with Equation, and Chip, as the director of Equation, has been the interfaith. I didn't say next yet. Take it back, please. Is the interfaith arm. So if you're here, please say here, and your screen will light up. So I don't think Ryan is here, but in case, Ryan, yell here. Chip, are you here? Okay. James, I know you're here.
I'm here, yes.
Yes, thank you. So now you all can see James. James is our co-chair. CJ, and our other co-chair. Anis, I don't know, are you here? And Jeremy and Donna. So these are our charter members and our new team members. Ariel and Ted, I was just on the phone trying to reach them. Ariel's not able to come. Ken.
That's here.
Yeah.
Here.
Oh, Ted, you're
Ted is
here.
here.
Good.
Mhm.
Excellent. Thank you, Ted. Glad you're here. Ken, Anna, I don't think is here. Becca.
I'm
Yes,
here.
thank you. And Kyle, Becca and Kyle. Kyle, if you say here, your face will light up.
Yes. Hello,
Mhm.
everybody.
So Becca and Kyle actually are the ones who organized this meeting, and they're running this meeting. Next slide, please. So we've been fortunate enough to raise enough money to hire some consultants. So Maria, I don't know if Marie's here or not. Marie, are you here? She's the owner of Starboard Strategy, and she has guided us through our strategic plan. Cheryl, are you here?
I am. Hello,
All
everyone.
right, great. So she's our part-time contractor program manager and focusing right now on energy efficiency. And thank you for saying hello. Justin Kale, he's out of Columbus and I don't expect him to be here. So he's been giving us energy consultant support. Sue is our website designer and manager, funded by the Sisters of Charity. Geneva Blackmer is our part-time program assistant, funded by Interfaith Cincinnati. And Green Umbrella and Equation, we are grateful to them for all their additional staff, support, and guidance. Next slide, please. So because of our work this year, we developed our 3-year strategic plan. We became a partner with the Green Cincinnati plan, and we created the Faith Community Energy Efficiency Initiative. And I will give you a little bit of background on each of those. So next slide, please. So Marie Janelli Carroll was our guide on our strategic plan. Next slide, please. I think you just hit the forward button. There you go. So because of the strategic plan, we had made a number of improvements focusing on our members. And we really want you to understand that that's our focus this year. So we updated the website to better support new and existing green teams. So you can find, go directly to this support on from our front page. We added our Facebook pages for members to share events and announcements. As long as they're relevant and they're open to the public, we invite you and welcome you to share. The easiest way to do that is just hit the join tab and join as a member. And anytime you have an event where you want to invite lots of people, post it on our Facebook page. We created our first quarterly newsletter for your articles. Members can send your articles to CJ at info@fcgg.org. Any articles, again, that are relevant to our mission. We encourage more members to share their expertise on our webinars, and you'll see that when you hear the different people, what they're doing, you'll see that we are doing that more. We raised enough money to hire Cheryl Hutchins through May to help with our major projects. We hope to raise enough money to keep her on. She's focusing right now on the work for our energy efficiency initiative. And we've partnered with the city. Next slide. So I want to tell you about the partnering. Whoops, you go back one, please. Thank you. So advocacy, education, lifestyles, and facility are all working groups that are the heart of our organization. And so to meet the Green Cincinnati plan, they agreed to achieve certain goals. So advocacy will advocate and publicize the indicators and impact data and best practices and gaps. And they will recruit faith-based people to testify on yeah, Becca, you're going the wrong way. Go back, please. There, it's right there. And Education Lifestyles will host in 24 one or more webinars and book club discussions on the connection of diet, climate change, health, and food waste prevention. And Facilities will have 53 congregations in the energy efficiency platform, benchmark, do energy assessments, set up energy improvement plans, and learn the importance of carbon emissions in their day-to-day operations. So I don't know if their logo's been posted yet on the green plan, but if not, watch for it, it will be. Next slide, please. In May, we learned about the application opportunity to participate or to apply for a $3 million grant opportunity from the Biden Investment and Instruction Law. The grant requirements were: 1, set up a prime recipient, which was Green Umbrella, and sub-recipients, which would in our case be faith communities. 40% of the recipients must be represented by underserved communities. And the other last requirement was to find a minimum commitment of $750,000 to cover the total cost share. Next slide, please. Well, in 8 weeks, which is all that we were given from May 24th to August 3rd, we sent out surveys, and 53 faith communities responded to our surveys, both online and by phone. 40% of those communities represented underserved communities. And so, yay, we accomplished 1 and 2. We did not accomplish number 3. We were not able to raise $750,000 in 8 weeks. However, we were so inspired by the 53 congregations that we created our own energy efficiency initiative. And you'll hear more about that from the Facilities Working Group. Next slide, please. So we are ready at this point to tell you about the great work. Really the heart of what we do is done through our working groups: advocacy, facilities, and education lifestyles.
Great. Thank you so much, Joanne. So we will start with Ted, who co-leads the advocacy working group. So Ted.
Okay, thank you. We're tracking several bills this year. Senate Bill 83, which would restrict teaching of controversial beliefs or policies, including climate. House Bill 79, a bipartisan bill to partially restore energy efficiency programs killed by HB 6 in 2019. HB 120 to repeal coal plant subsidies billed to all Ohio ratepayers and costing millions of dollars. And HB 197 to authorize community solar pilot programs in Ohio. We included in monthly newsletters, updates on these bills, along with other subjects. And we provided postcards and stamps for Ohio voters attending the Earth Day in Summit Park in April, the Midwest Regional Sustainability Summer Summit, I think in May or June, and then the Festival Face in August. And we sent out hundreds, I don't know, maybe 400 or 500 postcards were sent advocating for the bills. HB 79 has passed out of committee, but it can't get on, it hasn't been allowed to be on the floor by the majority party. HB 97 has had 3 hearings and is supposed to have a 4th hearing and then be ready to be passed out of committee. But it's not going to happen this year. The last Ohio House and Senate meetings were yesterday. And Senate Bill 83, which is regulating college teaching, has passed the Senate and it's gone through 3 committee meetings in the House, but it didn't make it through the House. It wasn't put on the House floor, so it'll be brought up next year. So more on that subject to come. The extreme gerrymandering is causing, well, I would describe it as corruption and creating extra fostering fossil fuel use and creating extra hurdles for renewable energy. The Ohio Supreme Court questioned different legislative districting, but it was overruled by the Supreme Court. So there's an effort now by Citizens Not Politicians Amendment for an amendment for the Ohio Constitution to make the people who draw up these districts be completely independent, not include politicians, but to be citizens. This petition drive is underway. I think it needs 400,000 signatures, but it's underway, and Ariel's pretty much committed to this. My co-chair pretty much committed to this. So you'll hear more from us. There was some information in the newsletter that went out on Monday. There'll be more information coming on that. In the last year, former House Speaker Householder, Larry Householder, is in prison now for taking bribes, and Commissioner Randazzo, who was the chair of the Public Services Commission, has recently been charged for their actions for bribes for HB 6. That story continues. And as I said, there's the nuclear energy subsidies were rescinded and they don't happen anymore, but there's coal plants that are being subsidized in energy efficiency plan were still taken out by HB 6 and need to be put back in place. We had 2 educational events. One was in July for citizens' rights in the Ohio River. We had 2 speakers at a Community Friends Meeting House in July to talk about the water rights of the Ohio River. And then on August 29th and 30th, just subsequent to the Festival of Faith, we had an education program called Taking Action, Moving from Despair to Hope. And that, of course, Festival of Faith was a partnership with A Mighty Stream and Equation. We provided the success story in that we talked about the success story in overcoming environmental racism that was moving the Cincinnati police firing range away from Evendale and into Coleraine, I believe. So that's our report for the day. I think we had a very productive 2023 and we're looking forward to 2024.
Thank you so much, Ted. Great job. And we will move now to Ken Wright, who heads the Facilities Working Group. Ken?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ken Wright, and I co-chair the Facilities Group, as mentioned. And as Joanne mentioned, as an outgrowth of our attempt to apply for this large energy, Department of Energy grant called Renew America's Nonprofits, that didn't happen for reasons that she explained, but we were inspired to form our own initiative which we've called the Energy Efficiency Initiative, or EEI. And in the process of doing that, we interviewed a portfolio of about 53, I think is the exact number, houses of worship. And we got basic data from them on their building characteristics and some of their needs. And approximately 30 of those houses of worship have never had an energy audit. And so we decided to focus on that and have instituted an effort to tackle that. So the first thing that we did was to hire Cheryl. We hired Cheryl Hutchins as our EEI coordinator.
Was that a slip?
Yeah, that was a bad. Cheryl, you want to put your camera on there and wave so people can recognize you? There.
Hi, everyone.
So she's been on board since early November, and no, we're not going to fire her. We're going to hire her. Keep with her. So she's helping us out and doing a lot of the coordination of working, because we got 50 different houses of worship to interact with and a bunch of volunteers, and it's going to be a complicated task. So in November, we put out a call for volunteers to be trained to do energy assessments. This was our approach, to define, we didn't think we could afford to put up $1,000 at least for each house of worship to be able to professionally do an audit. Some of them could afford it, but a lot couldn't. So we took the approach of training people as volunteers to do an energy assessment, we're calling it. It's like an energy audit, but not as official, but we think it's going to deliver almost all the same benefits. And it's going to be comparable to something like an ASHRAE level 1 audit, if you're familiar with energy audits. And we really got a phenomenal response from the community. We've got at least 16. I think it may be up to 18 now. It keeps growing. People that have signed up and willing to do this, take training and spend time doing at least 2 or 3 different congregations next year. And we also arranged with Justin Kale of Energility, who's an energy auditorium manager, to come down to Cincinnati and conduct training sessions. We're planning to have 2 of those. And we're going to pay for this out of the residual that we had from an earlier contract with between Green Umbrella and Energility. We actually held the first training session in a week ago, December 7th. We had 12 volunteers show up, which I think was a great attendance. It was more than I had expected, but a lot of people found out at last minute they could come, and so they did. We held that at St. Simon of Cyrene in Lincoln Heights. And we covered a bunch of topics around energy assessment, including, what is the building envelope, and looking at windows and doors and walls and roofs and ceilings. We talked a lot about lighting and what to expect and look for there, heating and cooling systems, and lastly, interpreting utility bills, because the first step in what we want to do in this process is to get utility bill information from all our client congregations and get an analysis of that so we know what to expect when we're visiting. We do plan to hold a second training session in January for the volunteers who couldn't make it, as well as anybody who wants a refresher. If you're still interested, if you're interested out there, folks, and haven't signed up, please do so. We're happy to have you join us. I haven't set a date for that. I need to send out a poll to find the best date, but it's likely going to be in the first 2 weeks of January. And Cheryl's been asked to communicate with our client houses of worship, and particularly initially focusing on the clients who are financially less able to pay for energy audits, and request that they collect their utility data and send it to us for evaluation prior to the site visit. Once we get that and have a chance to look at it, then we can set up an actual site visit. The site visits we expect will start in January and run through April. And the volunteers that we have trained, plus new ones, will do that. We're trying to work them in gradually, because it's a new thing for them. So I think what we're going to try to do is have Justin come down again and do some walkthroughs of one or two of those candidate or client churches, and take a large group of volunteers, maybe 5, 6, and do it as a group so that they have some comfort level and have Justin on board to kind of guide and correct them. And after that, then I think volunteers should be okay to go out either alone or in pairs if they want to. We still have a lot of work to do. We've done this initial training session, but we have some templates and checklists, develop some tools to develop for the volunteers to take with them to help them do this site visit in an easy and efficient way. And we also are looking at a program that Justin has recommended called EPIC to help us do some recommendations of specific energy efficiency improvements for the buildings that we're going to be doing the assessments on. So we need some financing for that, and we have to work that out. So, but I think things are starting to move, and I'm very encouraged by the progress we've made so far. And I guess we can talk later if you have questions.
Thank you very much, Ken. A lot of exciting stuff happening in the facilities work group for sure. And Cheryl, definitely glad to have you on board and a key part of that working group. Becca, if you would please put the slides up, and I'll start talking, and then we'll have that up ready to go. And Joanne gave me credit as the co-leader helping to organize this, and I really need to give most credit to Becca. She did most of the work getting this together, and unfortunately she's under the weather and her voice is not very strong right now, so I'm doing most of the talking. So I just want to give her full credit for all the work that she did to pull this together. So I'm going to briefly talk about the Education and Lifestyles group, and we'll start out by talking about what we have done this year, and then we'll close out with the things we hope to do in the coming year. So just briefly, we had 3 book clubs. One was covering food from the Radical Center. The second was braiding sweetgrass, and the third was Rooted: Life at the Crossroads of Science, Nature, and Spirit. We had 2 eco challenges. We were involved with the Midwest Regional Sustainability Summit and the Earth Day event in April. And again, a lot of our time this year was working on the energy efficiency grant. And so, with that, in the next year, we hope to do even more than what we did this year. So looking at the next year and the next 2024, first of all, we have 3 virtual programs lined up in 2024. And the first one is Living with Plastics, Myths and Facts. And we've got a really great panel discussion. We're going to be talking about the Rumpke recycling as well as the new Hefty bag Rumpke recycling that lots of people have questions about. And then, of course, the Recycling and Reuse Hub, which is a wonderful service we have in our community as well. And just talking about how we can not only do things in our own lives, but also as our institutions and our faith communities that we're involved in. The second one, we're going to be talking about managing your finances in an environmentally responsible way, and talking about investing in a way that helps our environment and divesting from things that are harming our environment. This is everything from banking to our credit cards to our investments, our retirement accounts, those types of things. So we've got several experts, one from Third Act Ohio, who is really focused on this and is part of Bill McKibben's initiative through 350.org. And we also have a gentleman who's an expert on this and does this professionally. And we think that you're going to get a good amount of really helpful information out of that. The third topic that we have is adverse effects of climate change on human society. That will be in March. And again, we've got these dates that we hope that you'll hold, and we think it will be very, very helpful. Let's go to the next slide here. So we're also going to have several eco challenges this year, and we have one pending for April 2024, and this is where we can kind of compete against ourselves and against our friends in different activities, whether it's plastics or energy use. It's just a fun way to try to better care for the environment in our own way. And then we'll close out with this last slide. We hope to have lots of other things planned, but we really want them driven by you all. We can't do it without everyone really pitching in. None of us do this as our full-time job. And so we really are looking to have your involvement as much as you are able. And so we really welcome you all to be a part of all of these different work groups as much as you can. So right now we'll open this up. We again, as was mentioned at the very beginning, we want to encourage your questions, your comments, your ideas, and your interest for the next year. So if you're interested in talking, please either put in the chat or unmute yourself and speak up as you are comfortable. Anyone have any questions, comments, things that you're looking forward to in the next year and things that you're passionate about?
I do.
I see Deborah's hand up there.
Yeah, hi. This is great, and I liked hearing all the details. A few years ago, when I first became involved in this group, we did have more. I mean, I felt there was more of, at least there was a place for creation care, and I know that it's part of the Education Lifestyles group, but mostly it's reading books about nature, watching films about nature, but I'm talking about the actual grounds, taking care of the grounds of the churches and the synagogues and the buildings. And what I had envisioned was that there would be more of collaboration among various faith communities, similar to the sacred connections that we have in Equation, where congregations get together and share work together. We visit each other's congregations, we learn about each other's beliefs, etc. Like, but in terms of creation, I think there could be a way where congregations, and I can't do this by myself. I mean, this needs to be, it needs this institutional support. But for example, there could be neighboring congregations who work to make or help each other create monarch way station gardens in their property, or eliminate lawns, or introduce native plants. We have the gleaning and greening, or it was greening, it was gleaning, and it was, sort of food oriented for a while, but I don't see any of that in this Education and Lifestyles Group report, maybe because none of it really happened. I know Mike Eck was doing some of that, and we had a couple other members, but I feel like that particular interest has been sidelined, and would like to see it reinvigorated and given some more support.
Great, thank you, Deborah. And I'll just comment on, yeah, go ahead, James. I see your hand
Well,
up.
just to say, Deborah, as you know, we're a volunteer-driven organization, and those of us who are sort of at the heart of this have been really consumed with the DOE grant, with the energy initiative, and other kinds of things, so that if people like yourself and others will step up and assume a leadership role in the kinds of programs you're doing, we'll provide you with whatever support we can, and that can include even financial support. But we simply, those of us that are within the core of this, we're doing this on a volunteer basis as well. And so it's a time factor, not a care factor. So that if you or you're able to put a team together from other people that are on this call, or people that you know, and you need some resources from us, then let us know and we'll try to provide those.
Yeah, and I'll just briefly say that I know Mike Eck and others have been very much involved with the greening and the gleaning work. One of the challenges that we have had as we've tried to integrate in with that is some of those things come up last minute. There are things that there are opportunities that come up, and it's difficult to get word out to like get an organized group to the entire group with short notice. And so again, it's not a factor of, it's not important. But from an institutional organizational perspective, the people who are really interested in that have the flexibility in their schedule to jump in and do things. I would encourage you to connect with Mike or the others who are working in that environment. And they have a mailing list that comes out, and they'll put a call out, and there'll be a certain location that they meet at. And if you have some flexibility in your schedule, that would be something that would be, I'm sure, would be appreciated if you have that. But yeah, any other?
Yeah.
Joanne.
Okay, so I'd like to add to this, Deborah, that I think if you go to our Facebook page and to find the link, any page on our website, fcgg.org, at the bottom of every single page is the link to Facebook. And the her name has slipped me, from Pat, is it from the Gleaners? It's not Pat, totally senior moment, I can't remember her name, but she frequently posts announcements about a gleaning opportunity directly on our Facebook page. As Kyle pointed out, those are usually, it's going to happen this week or next week, because they don't get much notice beyond a week or two. But because of the Facebook, we have that flexibility to get that word out. The other thing is that we did try several times to have people come and visit various congregations, and I look at it as success in that, for example, Susan Fox had opened up what they were doing at the Lutheran Church up in Westchester, which is phenomenal work. They created a garden They compost all their waste from their congregation, and so one was a vegetable garden, and then the other in a woods, they created trails with pollinating plants. But only 3 people showed up. But 2 of those people then asked Susan to come and help them make their site better, eliminating lawns and planting gardens. So it's baby steps, but I do consider it success, because that's 2 more congregations that hadn't done anything before and now learned how to do it. So that's the kind of thing that would be lovely to have an article about. And Deborah, I invite you to write about it and put it in our newsletter, and CJ would publish it in our next newsletter. So for anybody who is interested in this topic, we really can't do it without you, without all the volunteers.
Is there a way to get a list of the congregations that we're in touch with that express interest? Because I'm thinking about, for example, where the Baha'i Center is on the west side. I know a minister over there, but it would be good for me. I would like to know if there's other or congregations over there who are involved and would be interested in doing some kind of collaboration.
Can
Yeah,
you
I would go ahead.
post that request on you posted some kind of question, and I'm sorry I don't remember the question, but you got a lot of comments and on our Facebook. So my initial reaction to that is post your question and your comment on our Facebook page. See what happens.
Okay, I'm thinking, because I know there are people not on Facebook who may be, I don't know if there's people not on Facebook who are involved in the group. Is everybody in the group involved on Facebook?
I'm inviting everybody on this call right now, and everybody who listens to simply click our Facebook page and take a look.
Ken was vigorously shaking his head. I don't know if that means there's at least one person on this call who's not.
Yeah.
I'm not a Facebook person, so I just, it isn't going to happen for me just because I don't do Facebook, but I get plenty of other communications, so I'm not worried about it for me.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that's really where the newsletter can come in. If you have a little article that you say, hey, we've at our faith community, we're interested in, whatever, working with other folks who are looking at pollinator gardens, have a little article about kind of your dream, your thought, and then we could send that out, and that goes out to everybody. So that would be my encouragement. John's had his hand up for a little bit, so let me see what John's got.
Hey, thanks, Kyle. Yeah, I have 2 questions, and then first idea. Thanks for hosting us, and I am going to try to do better about like sharing events. I know at my congregation we've had quite a few successes this year, from pollinator gardens, an Earth Day event, LED upgrades, composting, things like that. So I'm going to try to write something up. Education wise, we host a monthly meeting at for our congregation. I try to do my best to have a quick knowledge sharing portion. Not all of us can make the great educational sessions you got lined up, which I wish I could make those, but I can't make them all. I know you share the videos, the recordings, and things like that, but it would be too much of an ask for like a one slider, a one pager, some sort of like really bare bones that I can print off and or put on a slide and share with my congregation in our meetings.
Kyle, may I answer him?
Yeah, please, yeah.
So at the end of each of these programs, John, we are going to be giving the audience a toolkit, like a roundup with tips or, ideas, resources that we will be sharing. So we'll definitely send it to you if you just get in touch with us ahead of time.
Great. No, thank you. I think that would be great. We've come back in our congregation. The education is still so much of a focus. We wish we could get more hands-on work, but there's still so much people need to learn. My other question was with the Green Cincinnati plan. I know that the OES sent out like a long list of projects to sign up for. I was wondering if you all had thought about which ones you're considering, or have you decided?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Joanne that mentioned, I don't know if we're able to, maybe Becca, if you're able to pull that slide back up. Joanne on her slide had the actual tasks that we selected, because there were I don't know how many, there were 80, 90, 100. So it was too many for any one person to take. But if you look at the presentation here, I think it was towards the top.
Well, no, just go up 2 slides.
Oh, just two. Okay.
I think it's just 2 or 3.
Yeah, thank you. I must have missed it.
Okay,
Oh,
no,
it,
the next
we
one.
covered
right
a
there,
lot. There you
right?
go.
Okay, so whoops, no, don't go back.
Next.
Right,
There
right,
you go.
stop, take your hand off everything. So, so I actually have the numbers if you want those. So each working group selected 3 or 4 different numbers that are listed on the sheet. But I didn't want to put those up here. I was trying to make the slides clean so that it was easy. But would that be helpful to you for me to read off the numbers to you, or no?
Oh, no, just knowing that, yeah, that's okay. Thanks.
Yeah, you know, it's just so each one of the working group leaders looked at the spreadsheet that the Cincinnati plan put together, and as you know, there's really a lot of items, and to narrow it down, for each group to narrow it down to 3 was a challenge. We had to take several stabs at that.
Joanne, would it be
Joanne came,
possible
did an initial screen and then sent those out to the team leaders and said, you know, how did your work relate to these parts of the proposed activities in the 2030 plan? And so for facilities, I went through and identified, I think roughly 3, but it was a pretty easy task for me because they lined up pretty well with what they were talking about. So that's kind of how we did it.
That would make a good article for the newsletter also. If each of the working groups would write an article about which of the Green Cincinnati Plan initiatives they're partaking in.
Excellent.
Great thoughts. Thank you, John. Appreciate that question. Any other? I see another Laurie there.
Yes, hi, everybody. I just wanted to commend all of you for really amazing work, especially as it's volunteer. You've really had a good year in 23, and it looks good for 24 also. I'm from Bellarmine Chapel, and one thing that our Healthy Earth team, that a couple of us have really gotten involved in the Save Our Parks issue, and most of you are probably familiar with it, where there's now going to be fracking in the largest state park in Ohio and some others, and that's being held up by a lawsuit and an investigation into potential fraud in the public commenting period. But regardless, and Ted mentioned this, I do think we can really motivate people to collect signatures for the Citizens Not Politicians ballot initiative is going to be very important because it's hard to get anything accomplished environmentally in the state of Ohio unless we can change our gerrymandered districting. So great opportunity for everybody. There's trainings going on now, and I know that Faith Community is going to Go Green is going to be sending out some information too and rallying all of us. So that is an important thing to make a priority of, I think.
Thank you, Laurie. And if you're not already on the mailing list for the advocacy group, I really encourage you to go to the website and sign up, because there's some incredible information that is really, really informative. So thank you, Laurie. Tony, I see your hand raised.
Yeah. You can hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. My main concern for the last several months has been how to access IRA monies that's available for a lot of these projects that we got going on. I'm not sure if is anybody working on that from your end. You know, like we're looking at putting in a geothermal system in, and there's confusion about, you know, how much is available, how it's available, what the steps are to get the money, and there's also confusion on a personal level. I'm talking about congregations or the nonprofits side of it, but then on a personal level, it's supposedly going through a process now with maybe the Ohio Department of Energy about how a person could get the $800 rebate on an induction stove. You know, how does that work? You know, and I didn't know if anybody's keeping, you know, if there's anybody working on it and making it simple too. I've gone to Department of Energy websites, and it's just like, you know, it's legalese, it's bureaucrat speak that I can't follow. And I don't, and to me, it's a fairly important subject matter. And I don't know if anybody's working on it or if anybody has, you know, Electrify Cincy was supposedly going to be doing education on this, but I think I don't know if they've fallen, if anybody knows if they're still around or have, you know, disappeared or what, still working.
I'm going to let Ken speak to this. He's the expert there.
Yeah, Tony, I've been trying to follow that, particularly the IRA and the credits, tax credits that are now available to nonprofits scene. And you're right, it's complicated. I've been mostly following it from the solar side, but I think the geothermal picture would be the same pretty much. And I would recommend some webinars that are done by a group called Collective Sun. I can give you some links to that if I remember to, or if you put your email in the chat. But there are some local experts that we might call on too. I can think of one who's a accountant who knows a lot about, you know, tax accountant who knows a lot about these renewable energy credits and how to manage it. So if there's enough interest, you know, we could put something together where we get some folks to speak to a group, either, you know, probably in this kind of format, to try to help educate people and find out what we know and what we don't know.
Yeah, there's substantial funds available.
Yeah,
you know, and so
some of
you know,
it is unlimited. Like the tax credits are unlimited. There's no cap on that, but there's some other pots of money where it is limited.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and Tony, I just put in the chat here the link to Rewiring America. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that website, but they have, you put in the zip code and what different devices you're trying to put in your house or whatever, and it will give you a calculation of how much of a rebate and those types of things are available. I know I just replaced my gas furnace with a heat pump, my gas water heater with a heat pump water heater, and I learned some lessons, and I'll probably learn some more this tax season when I put those on my rebates. So anyway, just from a personal level, if you're interested in talking about what I've already learned, I'd be happy to talk with you. And then I see Ken raised his hand again. Did you have something else to add?
No, that's just
okay.
Took it down.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to talk to you more about that.
Okay. Not
Thanks,
later, right now.
probably later. I don't want to monopolize the
right.
conversation, but I'll put my email address in the chat here. We can chat if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm a technophobe, so I can't even. I'm on an iPad. I can't even figure out how to go to chat. Let's see.
All right. Any other questions or comments or thoughts? Anybody want to share?
I'm
Fred.
curious how many people by just a show of hands are interested and would attend a webinar on the IRA funding. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Yeah. So I think we can easily put together, find some experts, put together a webinar on that.
Great. Fred, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hello. I had a question on whether anybody has expertise on how we can about getting more renewable energy sources for your house. I know that there are websites that the Ohio State has put out, and Joanne has sent us the link, But unfortunately, none of them tells us what percent of their energy comes from actual renewable energy sources, or are they just buying those renewable energy credits? Because they could be playing a game, buying credits and selling us to us at a higher price, and we think we are helping the environment, when actually they're just making money off of buying low-cost credits from somewhere and charging us more for it. So has anybody looked into it and gone deeper into understanding how best to go renewable in your home? Of course, other than having solar and geo.
Are you speaking specifically about the renewable energy credits through the?
Yeah, so what I'm interested in is, so right now we have solar and half of our energy comes from our solar panels, and the rest of it is from the grid. Now, if we want to go all renewable, how can we go about doing it? Is there anybody who's looked into it and come up with a template of how one can do it?
I'm sure there must be people that have done that. I would certainly think a web search would be a good look for it. I have not concentrated on that. Going totally off the grid, so to speak, is kind of difficult, and it's a lot easier just to be kind of net metered and be.
No, I don't mean going off the grid completely, but basically trying to use as much renewable in our lives as we can. Of course, we'll still be on the grid, but rather than get energy from a company that is using coal-fired plant, if there is one that has renewable energy like solar and wind, how can we go down that path and support them versus supporting a coal-fired plant, for example?
The way I understand it, if you're in the city of Cincinnati, they have the aggregation program, which supposedly sources all the power. Unless you opt out of it, you automatically are getting green sources of your power.
And if you're not in Cincinnati, there are companies that you can sign up for it for your generation part of it. But you're still using, if you're still using gas, you have that problem to deal with.
Yeah.
One thing.
Yep.
One idea is to contact Ann Cooper or somebody from Beth Adam Synagogue, because they did this for the whole entire synagogue, and so they did a lot of research on it, Fred, and I think Ann would be very happy to give you some guidance on it. She also produced a video, which I believe we still have online. I think it's in the, well, I'm not sure where it is. I would have to look on our website and see if it's still posted someplace. I'm sure it is, but I'm not sure where, because it's not under the webinars. But they're very pleased with their success.
Yeah, I'll follow up with them. But I just did some simple math. Like, for example, today, if we are paying 5 cents per kilowatt hour for energy, if somebody else gives us renewable and they charge us 7 or 8 cents, they could buy renewable energy credits, which will probably cost them 1 cent, and take 7 cents from us. They'll spend 1 cent and they make money just by trading the RECs. And that's what would not be the right thing to do for us, at least, It's not serving the true purpose of going renewable. It's just playing games with RECs.
Yeah, and I have looked into this with my energy, and this might be a good conversation or a good webinar. We could talk about this as well. So this is a great topic to carry on more. But I put in the chat the Energy Choice website, where you can look and see what percent is coming from renewable energy. Now, to Fred's point, there's corruption. I know it's hard to believe in Ohio that we have corruption on energy, but it has happened. And so I can't, I can't speak to that, but I do know that, at least by the law, they're required to produce that, and you can search and compare those. The other thing I would say is I've heard people say that, the best renewable energy is the energy you never use at all. And so I think a big piece of that is trying to lower your energy consumption. And that means, getting more energy efficient devices, appliances, getting windows that are tighter and, seal up the envelope, insulation, all those types of things that can lower the energy usage. Of course, that makes it hard when you're converting everything to electric or having an electric car. But that is, I think, another key piece that sometimes we forget about as well. But Fred, thank you for your suggestion, and I really appreciate that. And we'll look into, maybe we can have some type of webinar or training about that. That's a great topic. So we are coming to the end here, and want to make sure we have time for a close up. Maybe one more question if there are any, and then James, we'll have you close out. So any other final thoughts before we turn this over to James?
Just a quick thank you to Ken. I was part of a congregation that got an energy audit done by a class of UC students, and it was a fun experience, a good experience, and I know Ken had a hand in that. And there's actually, I guess, a potential grant that the professor's working on to potentially install pews and heaters for underneath the pews, which could be really interesting. So we'll find about that in January. But just wanted to say thanks to Ken, and there's some creative ideas floating around out there about heating spaces better. So thank you, Ken.
You're welcome. Thanks for participating and agreeing to do that. That's cool.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joshua. And that's a great note to end on. So James, I'll turn this over to you to close us out.
Well, just to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Really appreciate that, and whatever work you've done with us during the last year, we appreciate that. And going forward, we hope that whatever you have done, you'll continue to do and add to that. I want to acknowledge also the people who have really made significant donations to Faith Communities Go Green, that has allowed us to hire Cheryl, and that is Joanne Gerson, whom you've met, Christ Church Cathedral through Kyle, thank you, and then Interfaith Cincy through me. And then we have a donation page. I just put a link up in the chat. If you look at that, and I can share the screen, and you can sort of see the page here. There, if you go to this page, which lead to, you can make donations, and quite a number of people have done that. But if everybody that is on our list donates just $20, then if you can do more, but it just $20, it's going to allow us to continue with Cheryl and with some of the work that we've been doing. So please consider that, because this work does cost money to do. We're doing it on a volunteer basis. None of us get any of it. We don't write off anything. We don't charge for trips or meals or anything we do. All of the money goes directly into the work. So, and then the final thing I would like to say is that if you do have articles on any of the work you're doing, or that you want to see done, or that you know is being done, that relates to the mission of Faith Communities Go Green, submit those to CJ for the newsletter. CJ is graciously doing all the work of putting that together, but she can't write all the articles. We really need you all of us to do that. You can do that just by submitting them to info@fcgg.org, and CJ will get them. So without further ado, that's all I have to say. Kyle, turn it back to you.
Okay, Kyle, I just wanted to say also that in addition to writing articles, if you've read a really good book that you think would be a good resource for other people, we'd like to include resources as well. And just even a line or two about it. You don't have to write a whole book report, but just like a line as to why you think it was really good and why it would be advantageous to read it. Thank you.
Great idea there. So in closing, first of all, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And just to leave with the thought of, we can't do everything, but each of us maybe can pick one thing. So I'd really encourage us to pick one thing that we're really passionate about, and talk to any of us who we've put our emails in the chat here of how you'd like to help in that way. And sometimes I get really bogged down. I'm sure you all are on a bazillion mailing lists of all these environmental groups and other types of groups that it's hard to know what to do. But I really encourage you to just pick one thing and see how that may grow in this next year. So again, thank you for all of your effort, and really appreciate you joining tonight. You all have a good night.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.